What's going on, friends and family? It's another chill day, sun out. I come with y'all to give y'all some more advice on what's going on, what I could decipher. Like to see stuff for what it is, you know. Always had that knack for wanting to figure things out just because I like to learn how things work. It's just something I always done, and came with a lot of benefits over time. You know, things like that is what nurture seeds in your life. If you choose to be curious in general, there's plenty of things to learn, plenty of things to seek out. This world is full of knowledge, it's full of integrity, wisdom, but you got to seek it out for yourself, and you got to really want to have it ingrained. You got to really want to be somebody who is willing to put in the effort to learn things, and that takes going against the grain, just because like that's so opposite to what you see normally every day. But anyways, what I wanted to get on today was a bit more about performance, but the obedience factor that it enables. I believe performance does give off the sense of control to get people to be obedient, and it's the method to enforce control subconsciously, right? The subconscious programming aspect, that conversation as well as validation conveys indirectly. You can't see that for what it is unless you engage with people for enough times, and then you start to the pattern recognize and see what's really going on underneath the sheets. You see that the way they act, the way people engage with one another, the way they have conversation, the markers to what validation gives, right? So the certain things they speak on subconsciously, the intuitive recognition from one another is all based on performance for the most part, but it's based on validation between the sexes. So because we live in a very sexually driven society, and it's gotten to the point where it's very transactional, performance becomes the method to get that sort of validation, right? And it's just something that men and women want. You want to have validation from the opposite sex just because that's natural. I mean, you have this inner drive to want to procreate, and so to do that, you need to be able to gain validation from the other sex. But this has been trivialized and codified in this world. It's not the same as it used to be in the past. It was more natural. You could just be yourself, and then find people who are kindred to you or who resonate with you, and then you guys rock with each other right throughout life. But this is not, it's not the same anymore. We still want to have that same connection, but now it's more trivialized for money and transaction. So unless the end result of you trying to get validation or trying to be connected to somebody ends with some sort of monetary value or some sort of profit at all, it could be energy, it could be status, it could be assets, it could be relationships, or it could be connections. So now you have more assets in the future or more ability to do things in the future because of the connections you've made in your past. All this has to give some sort of profit at the end. If not, it feels like a waste to most people, and they'd rather go put their efforts elsewhere, which is reasonable. I mean, when you realize that this world is all transactional and everything you do is based on what you can provide and what you can get out of this life by putting in your best foot forward, you realize that it's best to just operate at your best potential and to acclimate to the performance, at least somewhat, so that way you can gain the validation you need in order to learn things or be able to gain some sort of profit in some way, right? That's just those are the results of capitalism. People seeking profit just because it's most beneficial in this life. And then we start to get in that sort of flow method or that flow mentality when you keep doing this stuff over and over, and then eventually the performance becomes the baseline. So it's how we get off, or it's how this system has gotten off control to people indirectly, and it creates obedience indirectly as well. So if you're somebody who can see this, right, and you play along, and then you wanna still, try to get more and more validation, unfortunately the system will eventually see who you are for who you are, just because of how Orwellian our system is. Like we seek to surveil everyone just because they want to have control over you. They want to be able to make sure that you stay in line, or that you're not trying to do too much to dismantle. It's this leveling culture where people want to keep everybody in their places, right? Stagnancy. And there's this sort of underlying method to make sure that nobody steps out of line too much, right? And then they give you this sense of it's usually from older people, but they give you this sense of accomplishment when you do limit yourself in a way to where you're not trying too hard to be better than, right? And it's not that you physically are, it's just when you operate at your best potential and it starts giving you gifts, and say in comparison to somebody that's probably doing the same thing, not getting the same results, it breeds a little bit of some envy with people, right? And you can't do much about that. That's just humans. They want to have pride over certain things. They want to feel like they're better than, and then when you come out of the blue doing your best, and then it gives you results that they can't get, they get envious. They want to level you down. They want to humble you. There's not much you could do about that, right? And it's enabled in this system. There is no repercussions. There is no accountability. It's fully enabled. So you just got to live with it. You got to learn to work with it, work within, try to find your way, right? Cut your little piece of pie and maintain that. If you can grow it without too much repercussion from people, because usually that's where you're going to get the reverse action, right? That's where the resistance comes from, is other people, which is why you see a lot of these people talking about it's better to just be alone, better to just isolate, better to just do what you can by yourself, because other people will do everything in their power if they seek to try to stop you, just because. Okay, if you don't know that now, I'm telling you now, that's what they're doing. Okay, if you're not paying attention, you're gonna get trapped under their games, and you're not gonna wonder. You'll be wondering, what the fuck? Like, how do I get out of this? How do I get myself into this? How deeply ingrained am I into this game? And then you're just gonna be stuck. And I mean, it's not a good feeling, but it's part of the game, right? It's part of the lessons that you learn. This is not how life should be, though. Okay, so if you're wondering, like, that don't sound like a good life, that's because it's not. It's not how life was supposed to be. We're supposed to be cooperative rather than competitive, but people are not doing that because, like I said, the silent obedience conveying is to be performative, which means to be better than other people if you can be. Not that you should try to be like so prideful that you feel like you're better than, so you have to act like that mentally. But in order to maintain your place, just operate at your best potential without having to worry about the opinions of others, right? Don't let their opinions or their need to label you limit you, just because it's not good to do that. But anyways, so they use performance basically to get everybody to play the game. The performance looks really attractive. It looks like it's influential. It looks fun. It looks engaging, and you see it everywhere. And it subconsciously tells you that's what you're supposed to do. It gets you to play obediently. It gets you to play within this game, so that way you follow the rules subconsciously. You have to figure them out for yourself, because they won't tell you, because they want to be able to play this game without having the rules given out to everybody. They want everybody to just figure it out. It adds to that silent I forget the word, but it's affirmative action in a way where, like, you understand the game because of the way you're acting, so they immediately like resonate with you on that. And then that's part of the game too. It makes them feel like there's an in, right? So that's another validation method that's given off indirectly. But basically the performance conveys control, which gives off obedience, and people are obedient by following the rules. What is the performance based on? As I've said in the past, it's based on the idea of trying to operate at your best and gain the attention or influence of other people. That gives you that validation loop. Basically, it's about validation. Basically, you perform because you want validation. The validation gives you certain profits or results, and then as a result of that, you have a better standing in your own life, and then you can use those assets to do things, whatever you want in your life in the future. However you've manifested those things in your life, right? So the performance is a stagnant thing as well. And that's kind of hard to describe, because performance with the mindset of operating at your best potential should mean that it increases, right? That it acclimates to your best potential, whatever that is. But when you start to perform for validation and you surround yourself with people who align with you, if they figure how you are, like what your likes are, what your wants are, just because eventually you're gonna make friends and eventually they're gonna figure out like what's going on with you, right? What you like to do and whatnot. So when they figure this out, then there is this subconscious attempt to limit you. And I don't know how to describe, but it is because of envy. That's the very, very base level of it. It's because of envy, but because they don't want you to remove your agency from the situation they've created with you, right? So if you join a friend group, right, because you've performed enough and they like your performance and they like the influence you bring and they like the attraction you bring, and what you can do, right? Your talents, your abilities. If they want to maintain that and they don't want you to go anywhere, they'll make you feel like you got to stay with them. That's the subconscious thing. It makes you feel like those are going to be your life buddies, which is cool. I mean, you know, you got people that want to be around you for life, but at the same time, it's based on envy. So their limiting can acclimate based on how you react. So your reactions become transactional in this way, and this is part of the performance. So you perform basically to gain influence, whether that be through your humor, through your intellect, through your talents, through your conversation ability, through your wisdom, through what your assets are, through your family, through your business, whatever you have that they probably could use, they want to keep that around, right? And those are things that you use to maintain yourself as well. But if the envy is telling them they don't want you to go anywhere and you are fighting against that, their envy, right, has to acclimate to the limiting that they're trying to do. So that means that, let's say you own a business and you've hired some of your friends as your employees, because they don't want they don't want your business to sell out, so that way you move on in life likely without them. I don't know why some people think that, but if you move on in life likely without them, they'll subconsciously try to limit you in a way to make sure that doesn't happen. So if they're your employee, maybe they take some of the cash out of the register or something, or maybe some assets go missing and you have no idea who it was, but they know, and they know how much money it would cost you to replace. You know what I'm saying? That type of shit. And if you're not keeping track, it will acclimate. They'll feel like they have a hold on you, so that way they can keep you low. They just want you to play their game, basically. But that's just how transaction works. When you decide that you want to be a part of something in this system, you're going to deal with people who want to try to use you or step on you to get ahead themselves. Even if they're your friends, even if they look like it. That's why I say it's best to just be individual. It's best to isolate, and it's best to work within your own bounds and try to get whatever you can out of life on your own if you can. Assets are great, and people and connections are great too, but they come with consequences and they come with repercussions if you're not careful. So it's best, if you can, find a group of people who want to grow with you, which is real rare because this is systemically fought against. So eventually you'll get seen as a group that wants to grow, and then other groups see what you're doing, right? And they don't have to be friends, they just witness what you're doing, just because the vibration you guys operate on is infectious, kind of. People will witness this stuff, and so they want to limit you too. They don't want your group to surpass their group, and like I said, it's part of the envy at the baseline of the performance. But yeah, you basically want to try your best, even despite. So learning at least tactics, learning methods, learning how people operate, learning psychology, if you can, learning about manipulation, or learning about coercion tactics. It allows you to see things before they might happen, or at least describe what's happening to you in the present, or what happened to you in the past, so you can learn from your mistakes. But the deal is that it's all performance based. So you combating their tactics to level you is the performance as well, and it makes them feel like, okay, this person is on my level because they know what I'm talking about, or they know what I'm trying to do, so now I need to up my attacks. And then they feel like it's a game of cat and mouse. So you're doing what you're doing, they're trying to level you, you figure it out, you step over that, they do something worse, you step over that, and yada yada. Now I say, and for the most part from what I witnessed, this gets worse in life. People, they decide that, you know what, at some point you're just too strong for them, you're just too powerful, so they got to get more people to help them, and then it gets a bit existential. So I mean, you could be strong, right, and you could try to level yourself, but what most people do is manipulate the perception of those who at least are coercible enough to pay attention to what you're saying, and you try to limit yourself. Well, not really, but you try to give off the perception that you're limiting yourself, so that way they don't feel like they need to try to step over you or try to climb off you, because they feel like you're leaving them. They feel like you're running away. If you ask me, most of this subconscious programming comes from parenting, Gen X parenting specifically, but Gen X got it from boomers, and then Gen X likely did it to their children or millennials, and then millennials got that off to Z. So Z is going through the most of this right now. I would say Gen A is also dealing with a great deal of it in school, but Z right now is feeling the brunt because they have to deal with pretty much everybody, and they're at the beginning of their 20s, right? Or they're in their 20s right now, so it means that they're going through like the baby steps of it. People still have the ability to hide away what they're doing just because Gen Z is experiencing this stuff for the first time in life. So, whatever, I was getting off topic a bit. But basically, people are going to try to stop you, and that's the performance. And if you're strong enough to combat them, they get worse. They do more things. They try different methods. They try systemic methods even, or they try things that you wouldn't even perceive at first, just because you happen to be somebody that's really strong or independent. So what this results to is many people just joining groups and sticking with them, not trying to be better, not trying to be worse, not trying to undermine, but they just stick with a group for as long as they can, so that way those people maintain some sort of cohesion while this stuff comes down, because this system is collapsing. So not much you really could do at this point. I mean, we would have loved to be able to provide for each other, honestly, but there are just too many people who like destruction, who like chaos, who like tyranny, who like authoritarianism, and they just can't help themselves but to try to be better than people, regardless of if it goes against their rights or not. And there's not much you can do about that. And it's enabled. It's fully enabled without and with full immunity. So there's not much you could do, because systemically there's no repercussion. And I theorize if you're somebody who is wise enough to get very independent and still be strong, they'll target you. They'll highlight you. They'll make it seem like what they're doing is justifiable because you're too strong for so many people, right? And it's just the way it is here. I hate to say that. I hate saying it's the way it is, because it really fucking not. We live in a world of free will. Like, you could do whatever you want. You don't have to step on nobody. The only thing that's being conveyed to you is this idea of scarcity, so you feel like you have to do it. Like, you have to participate. You have to try to get as much money as possible. You got to try to get this validation if you want to have the best fulfillment out of life. No, bro. You don't. You can live a great life without having to deal with no monkeys, flying monkeys. You can live a great life without having to step on people. You can live a great life without having to go against yourself, without having to perform. All that stuff is just programming, subconscious. But yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to get on. It comes from parenting, though. It comes from the childhood. It comes from the school system. They convey the idea that you have to be like them in order to live this life. And it's usually done because they don't want to feel alone in performing in that way. You know what I mean? By trying to demean others to make themselves seem better. It's the idea that you want to go against human nature to be like other people. And then because people have done it for too long without understanding what they're doing, they justify it with validation from other people because they perform the same stuff or in the same way they do. It sucks. It's a hell realm. It's lame. We have so much inner creativity in us that we just need to open up by discovering ourselves, by just being ourselves, doing whatever it is you want to do because you want to do it. Me, I love music. I love making music. I've always loved it. I love many genres. Because of that, I have a knack for sound. I have a play-by-ear kind of rhythm. I don't necessarily need to read notes. I don't need to rehearse music. I don't even need to learn from too many people or study. I just play by the ear. And I learned so much because of that. My intuition aligned with my knack for music. I love it. But that's just me, right? That's my creative venture. To the day I die. To the day I die, I'm making music. I hope all of y'all got to drive like that for whatever you like. You like flowers? Make flowers. Yeah, make different kind of flowers. You might learn something. You might teach us something. You like nature? I don't know. Discover something. You like discovery? Discover something in another country. You like pottery? Make something that we've never seen, or with another kind of material, in a way we've never seen, in a method we've never used. Something. It brings you that novelty naturally, so that way you don't have to seek other people. Not that you shouldn't want to, but in this system, it's probably better to learn to do stuff for yourself anyway, for that novelty, because you never know. You never know, man. People you keep around you might really want the worst for you and you not know it. But anyway, that's what I wanted to get on. Hope y'all learned something today. I'm gonna try to give y'all some more every day, something. Just because I like to give off what I've learned, my experience. I've had to deal with the worst of this system as a result of my isolation. It was early on too. I had to isolate since real young. But I've learned so much as a result. I've learned how people operate. I've learned what friend groups look like, all kinds. And I've learned the end results when there's envy involved. A real dangerous mix. But I'll see y'all on the next one, all right? Peace.